If you're in the tech startup world, don't do it if you don't have energy. We have a lot of it, but I'm Ray Edwards, the founder of PAQTech, and excited to be part of it.
Cool, man. Appreciate you taking time. Long-time friend.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. An unofficial Went brother.
Unofficial Went brother, yes. Yes, Ray is. And someone I look to and have stolen many bits from and pieces of knowledge on how to pitch and how to craft a deal. So appreciate you taking time to come out and talk a little bit about it. So tell me about your company. What do you guys do?
Sure.
What the tech does.
So PAQTech is all about purification. We deal in the area of microbes, particularly things that are pathogenic diseases. And so our mission in life is really to protect people. And our goal, our big, hairy, audacious goal, is to protect 1 billion people every day using technology. Now, we talk about protection from a perspective of people are used to the common flu epic that happens every once in a while. The common cold is a big deal.
We just all went through it. My whole family, everyone's still recovering.
And you get it, right? So like, you don't wash your hands the wrong day and you end up sick for a week. So those things are common, right? And what causes that is microbes. And in the battle between people and microbes are certainly winning. And so what inspired us to start working on this technology back in 2015 was we started meeting a lot of athletes that were saying, I'm playing hockey or I'm in football, baseball, even wrestling, high contact sports where people interact a lot. And they were catching these infections, right? And some of these things are as simple as jock itch, right? You can have a little bit of cream in a couple of days and you're back to normal. But in most extreme cases, we've seen things like MRSA where a small bump on a knee turns into a potential amputation. And these are things that can all be solved with some basic rudimentary science applications. And so PAQTech, we studied Mother Nature and looked at what she does to protect us as a species. And one of the things that all of us can relate to is the ozone layer, right? Ozone is thought of in a number of unique, convenient ways, but most people think of it as that blue layer in the sky that protects us from UV burns. And what that actually is Mother Nature has recognized that using 3 molecules of oxygen combined together into O3, which is what we call ozone, that's actually what keeps the UV from penetrating layers of the skin and causing things like sunburn or even skin cancer. That's at a very macro atmospheric level. But when you take the power of ozone and you capture that and harness it and put it inside of a gym bag, it's equally effective at getting rid of hockey funk and hockey odor. And so our business model in the beginning was, how do we harness enough ozone and be able to control and replicate that in a bag to protect athletes from infections that are from sweat inside of helmets and pads. And so our technology was born sort of from that application, and in the last 4 years has evolved into more advanced applications like protecting people from foodborne illnesses, things like E. coli and lettuce, right?
That's very cool. So touching on the bag capabilities, is it a bag, or how does it work for people who haven't seen it?
Sure, absolutely. So everyone that plays sports carries some kind of bag, generally, unless you're in like maybe one of the minor sports like golf, where it's more of like a golf bag, right? But 95% of athletes that play either hockey, football, basketball, lacrosse, volleyball, and even wrestling, they work out, they train, they compete, and throw everything inside of that thing. And it's either a backpack that you use to put your lunch in and everything else, all the way up to large duffels like in hockey, where there's a specific bag experience where the helmets have to fit.
All that gear just sits in there and marinates in whatever funk is in there, right?
That's absolutely it, Bryan. And so, as you can imagine, for microbes to really become problems, they need 2 things. They need conditions, they need time. Now, perfect conditions just means that if bacteria is given enough of a safe, closed environment that's high in moisture, like sweat, right, and there's no oxygen and no airflow, then the common gym funk happens inside the bag, or in hockey's case, the entire car smells after a match, right? So what's happened biologically is that the bacteria like to feed on the organic compounds that are in the sweat, and they produce enzymes, right? It's basically a metabolic process where they're eating their food and they're producing gas, like cows do on the dairy farm. And so what causes the odor is just the fact that the bacteria have had enough time to replicate. And what's brilliant about their ability to do that is they can replicate fast. And if there's no airflow, they do it very effectively and very efficiently.
Okay.
Ozone is a great way to neutralize the bacteria because it'll oxidize them, which just means that the molecules of ozone will attach themselves to the cells of bacterial walls and will dismantle that and convert that into oxygen.
Got it.
So if you can stop the growth process, then you can actually neutralize it at the source without spraying Febreze and without toxic chemicals and things that we typically use like Lysol, which are just as harmful in some cases as the actual bacteria themselves. So if you can get the conditions to where they can't grow and you have enough time to address them early, then you can solve for an odor in any bag in the world. And that was our mission at the beginning.
No, I fell in love with the tech and the products, as soon as I saw it. So, but it's grown since the bag.
Absolutely, yeah.
So now what are you guys doing? How's it grown out?
So, and we've worked with you guys on this, which has been one of the benefits of working with Matter Labs is the routes and access to DoD that we didn't have before we have with you guys. And so, for example, we just won Phase 1 SPR acceptance with the Air Force.
Great.
What does that mean, right? Thank you. It means now that what was a basic technology, a piece of hardware that produced ozone, now with DoD partnerships, we can advance that into a platform architecture where we can connect sensors and IoT devices to our hardware, use program software to build an interface like an app, the way your Fitbit works.
Yeah.
And now the military can install our units inside of commercial vehicles as well as military vehicles, Humvees, fighter jet cockpits, in many cases the actual storage units for the soldier gear inside of barracks, and even soldiers, right? The Army's already pre-ordered 3 units to attach to soldiers' uniforms for detection, right?
That's great, yeah.
And so now this partnership means we can invest in more detection features so that not only can we purify spaces, but we can actually do analysis and detect germs where they live before you get sick, or a soldier gets sick, right? So that partnership has been really important for us. And it's preventing us from having to go and sell half the company to do it, right?
Yeah.
So DoD partnerships and SPR are great because I don't have to raise investor capital to do it.
Yep. And it's money specifically to go after those avenues, right? Where maybe you weren't necessarily looking at that, but now you have free money to be able to go and pursue that, right?
Absolutely, and without the pressure of having to get to revenue, right?
Yeah.
Because companies that are like us typically are trying to do one of two things: turn on revenue really early before this product market fit, or they're trying to raise capital from a big VC and justify valuation to not lose control of the company.
Sure.
And so partnerships with Matter Labs and with the DoD through you guys allow us to raise the capital we need to take our time and make sure the product actually works at the level we promised the market. And I love working with the DoD because they don't encumber our patents. Our IP rights still stay with the company, and I can commercialize the Air Force version in the private sector for use in hospitals or inside of consumer technology spaces, right? Without having to go out and raise capital to do it. So it's a very important partnership for us, and it's also recession-proof, right?
Yeah.
So we do have economic factors. We believe that from a business standpoint, most companies fail because of timing, and usually it's economic things that cost companies around the money. They burn capital too fast. Developing tech is expensive, and you always need more money to do it, right? But when you're working with the military, you know that no matter what happens with the economy, there's still going to be support and government programs for what we're doing. So it's another way to just keep the business alive and safe from economic factors too.
Very good. Yeah. So, and you had mentioned that order from the Army, right? And that was as a result of this event last year, right?
Absolutely. In fact, it was. You guys invited us to set up a table at the NAVFAC event, the Faro Center, Camarillo, and we met. He's not a contract officer, but from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, he happened to see our bag unit and was sort of interested in what we were doing with the bags.
Interesting. Yeah.
And as we talked to him about the advanced IoT version of our technology, he became keenly interested in supporting us. So that led to an order.
So when he came by and walked through, had you thought of that use case before, or was that something you guys kind of like, brainstormed on the spot, or how did that process work a little bit? I'm just curious how that was. It organic, or was something you already thinking you planted in his head as a use case?
That's a great question, and the honest truth is we had already been sort of fantasizing about all the ways we could kill germs in the world and save the world, right?
Sure.
So we had this very macro viewpoint that from a market addressability standpoint, people need help fighting microbes in places like food and cruise line cabins. I shouldn't mention any brands, but cruise line cabins are places where it's obvious people get sick from contacting surfaces, right? And so we'd already thought through how do we make our tech work inside of hospital rooms and hospitality outside of bags. What that event and that meeting was really, where it was really helpful was we hadn't considered the Army or DoD as a specific end user for our technology in the advanced sector, and didn't appreciate that soldiers deal with these microbe issues in the field the way they do, right? And so I'll never forget our Army contact telling us the reason he was interested in the unit was because soldiers on special ops will typically live inside of subterranean environments like caves for 2 weeks at a time on a mission.
Yeah, it blew me away when you told me that. I I didn't know.
It's kind of crazy. It's like MI3 stuff, right? And so when the soldiers return from deployment, they're quarantined for anywhere from 2 weeks to a month. And they don't know what's on the soldier's uniform, what's in their gear, or what they've breathed in. And so detection when a soldier's in the field is really important to them. And so because of that conversation, we went back to engineering and said, let's open up a new spec on if we were to use this for detection inside of caves. How would that look and feel? What's the product form factor have to be? And how do we capture data without releasing classified information?
Sure.
And that led to the new advancements.
Very cool, very cool. Well, I'm glad you came back this year. Everybody's always interested in the tech. What advice can you give for people who are starting out, maybe have a tech or a company but have never worked with DoD at all? Like, what kind of advice can you give to them starting out, first steps?
Sure. Outside of harassing Bryan every week and calling him for contacts,
that's what I do.
which we do a lot of, which has helped us. But I think one of the things that you guys helped us with this, that's really served us, is understanding your end customer, right? Whether you're working with the DoD or you're a private sector consumer technology company, great engineers will make anything that you ask them to make, right? And if you have enough funding, you can make some pretty gnarly technology work.
Sure.
One of the things that we became better at over time was not making assumptions on product market fit before we actually met with customers, and taking customer feedback seriously and directly integrating that into our product development process.
Yeah.
And so that's a complicated way of saying, whether it's DoD or otherwise, we meet with our end users and they tell us what their problems are, and we engineer our solutions to their problem set.
Yeah.
And then find ways to pay for it.
It's so important. I mean, that's you're a serial entrepreneur. You've done this rodeo a million times. It's one of the biggest mistakes we see people make is they want to develop in a silo and they don't want to get that feedback because they think it might be hard.
Sure.
Right? And they've got this perfect product in their mind and on the lab bench. And as soon as they go out and they get the least little bit of negative feedback, they freak out and
Sure.
they stop, right?
Yeah.
But I think we both would agree that this is where you can perfect that, right? This is where your product becomes real, right? This is where once you know your end customer, then it's so much easier. You can develop stuff all day long, but how do you know when you're finished where it's right until you talk to your customer?
That's absolutely it, Bryan. And I'll double down on that. With the SBIR for us, we submitted the first time and we weren't accepted. And that was a little disheartening because you spend a lot of time putting proposals together. Selling to the government is a full-time job.
Yeah.
Just the requirements of documentation and having the right resources and engineers and certifying everything that you claim is important. So we invest a lot of time in just pursuing SBIR. But what we learned in winning it this time was the delta between winning it and not was we were submitting against an open topic the first round, which just means that, the DoD will publish a list of topics of what they need, and then there's this bucket of catch-all if there's not some specific topic for your technology that you can submit to, right? We didn't win the open call, but this submission, there just happened to be a topic where the Air Force has a need for purification inside the facilities, and it just so happens that PureTech serves that need.
Well, one of the nice things between, at least in my opinion, versus an open versus something that has very specific topic, right, is then the customer's kind of defined in that paper for you, right? They've thought it very clearly. What's the specs? What's the need? What's shape, size? I mean, they give you almost to a T the recipe for a good product, right? And they're very serious about putting that paper out because at the end of it, they're hoping to solve a problem and give you a contract. So they're not messing around.
Right.
So all those specs, if you just listen to that and build that product, you're good. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things with going through SBIRs. It's a bit of a process. You might have to do one or two, but once you land that one, you're on the right track. It's validated. They're interested. You're interested, right? Like, it's a great process. So
it's amazing.
I'm excited to see where you guys go.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see how we can help out with the process. Would love to get you in on Coastal Trident this year.
Perfect.
And any other way we can help out. So I appreciate the time, man. As
Amazing.
always, it's fun to chat with you. It's been a while since we caught up. We'll have to do more off camera. But I appreciate it, man. Thanks.
Thank you. Absolutely.